Hi, everybody. Uh, Welcome back to my channel. I am Cheyenne, and I did not post last week because I was in the hospital. I had to get reconstructive surgery on my heel and ankle. So, this is my cast Malone, named him after Sean Connery's character in The Untouchables. So, now that I'm feeling a little bit better, I can start posting again. So today's story times are going to be a little bit different than my previous videos. The first three previous videos were heavy, they were dark, and I think it's important to introduce some balance and bring a little bit of a comical aspect to my channel and to bring a little bit of levity. The one thing I do want to say is that my pathetic stalker, Boris, you'll know who I'm talking about if you watch my previous videos, my stalker part 1, part 2. Well, a couple days before my operation, this is what he sent to my mother. He said, and of course, he uses aliases. He hides under different profiles on Instagram, and this time it's Mistress Jezebel. And he wrote to my mother that he hopes that everything I've done wrong to others comes back to me when I'm under the knife. So basically, that I croak while I'm under the knife. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Boris, because I did not die under the knife, and I am still here. So, sorry I didn't make your day. But we're going to move on for that, and enough time on this leech. So, moving on, I am going to tell you two stories that happened to me. By the way, I hope you appreciate the little 80s, 90s flashback I've got going on here, but I'm stuck in bed with this cast, so I'm just trying to make things a little bit different. And being that I am a 90s baby, there you go. Well, 80s and 90s. So the first story that I'm going to share with you happened in South Florida. Now, I moved from France to South Florida when I was 8 years old, specifically to Fort Lauderdale. I've lived all over South Florida, so I really know it by heart. And so it was the 90s, and we moved into this neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale. And it was just right off of Federal Highway. It was supposed to be this, little safe neighborhood called Rio Vista. If you know which neighborhood I'm talking about, leave it in the comments below. And so I was about 9 or 10 years old. So this was in the mid 90s. And I was living with my parents, and we had just finished watching a movie, eating dinner, and it was time for bed. So everybody went to bed around 10 or 11 o'clock. Everything's nice and peaceful. Everybody's sleeping. What could go wrong? But you've got to remember, folks, this is South Florida. So, all of a sudden, we start seeing lights shining through the windows, the bedroom windows. And my parents wake up first, and then they wake me up, and we're all wondering, what are all these lights shining through our windows? Now, I grew up watching Rescue 911 and Unsolved Mysteries, so immediately I wanted to throw up. As a little 9-year-old, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is happening. Robert Stack will be talking about me in a couple months. I didn't know what was happening. And then we hear the sound of the helicopters, and they start getting closer and closer and closer, and they are right above our house. Needless to say, we can't move, we can't breathe, we can't speak. we don't know what the hell is going on. So my dad tells me to hide under the bed. So I hid under his bed, and my parents are just looking out the windows, like just to see what's going on. There are cops everywhere with their guns held out. The SWAT team is there. There are police dogs, canine units in the backyard. There's a cop or two on the roof. And then we hear a knock. I hope that sounded like a knock. Or on our door. And it was a cop. And he said to my parents the most out of this world story. He told them that 2 minutes away at the McDonald's, some guy had shot 2 police officers and killed one of them and was on the run, and that he was somewhere in our little neighborhood. Now you have to understand, our little neighborhood was right next to this little lake called Cliff Lake that was next to a graveyard. So, my parents are freaking out. We're thinking, what the hell? So the cops told my parents, do not open the door, stay inside, lock yourselves somewhere, and do not open for anybody unless it's one of us. But this guy's on the loose, he's armed, and we cannot find him, but he's hiding somewhere in this neighborhood. It was awful because it was all night long. The dogs in the backyard going crazy, the cops on the roof, the helicopter swarming above like bumblebees on acid. It was so scary. The neighbors were freaking out. I could hear them screaming. I think they had a little kid that was just screaming all night. Everyone was frightened to the core. I think I may have thrown up several times that night. It was awful. Every creak, every branch breaking outside, we all thought, it's the guy. It's him. We didn't sleep all night. I don't think anybody in the neighborhood slept. And as soon as the sun rose, they found the guy. They found this guy. They found him in the lake with water up to here. Just so he just had his nostrils just like a millimeter above water so he could breathe, holding his clothes above his head. He had tossed the gun in a tree, and the cops found him. So he was, hiding naked in the lake, and they found him and they got him. But guys, what a night. Only in Fort Lauderdale. This stuff happens. This is like a normal Wednesday night in Fort Lauderdale, or any part of Florida, really. But that's one of many stories I'm going to tell you about Fort Lauderdale. But like I said, it was just a regular school night. Everybody's minding their own business. And then you got some guy that killed a cop at McDonald's, or Mickey D's as we like to call it, hauling ass through the neighborhood. And he could have been hiding in somebody's house, in someone's yard. I mean, but he was in the lake, hiding, thinking they wouldn't spot him. But they got him all right. So that was really freaky. That was definitely for my little 9-year-old brain, that was a Hunter S. Thompson moment. I felt like I was living in a parallel universe, because this kind of shit doesn't really happen to most 9-year-olds. So there's the first story. Now we're going to move on, and we are going to go to Cleveland, and we are going to go back to the 70s. So one of my ex-boyfriends, whom we will let's call him Jake. So Jake and I dated when I was in LA. We dated for 3 years. It was a very beautiful, passionate, very volatile and just filled with a lot of burning desire. Let's put it that way. Definitely a relationship I won't forget. And he told me this story that I had to share at some point in my life. So while Jake was growing up in Cleveland, obviously it was the era of LSD and mescaline and company, if you know what I mean. So he had a friend, and let's call him Rodney. So Rodney, who unfortunately had completely destroyed all of his brain cells, and maybe he had a low IQ because he had taken so much LSD in his life that there was a different type of wonderland existing in his mind and his soul. God bless him. So Rodney was walking down the street one day with Jake. And back in the 70s, they used to have those home goods store where they would, show off the newest item, especially for housewives, the newest thing that you could use in the kitchen, or the newest pots and pans, the newest broom, or the newest mop, or the newest dishwasher, or stuff like that. But this time, they were advertising the newest vacuum cleaner. And Rodney took one look at that vacuum cleaner, and I think it was probably worth a couple $100, but at the time, that was a lot of money at the time. So he sees this vacuum cleaner, and I guess he must have thought he saw Cindy Crawford, on display, and he thought to himself, I gotta have that vacuum cleaner. I need that vacuum cleaner in my life. But it goes further. It goes a lot further, because he didn't just want that vacuum cleaner. He wanted to kidnap the vacuum cleaner. You heard me right. He wanted to kidnap the vacuum cleaner. So what does he do? When the store closes that night, he goes and finds a brick. He smashes through the glass display, and he takes that vacuum cleaner. He takes that supermodel vacuum cleaner, and he leaves a note, a ransom note, to the police and tells them to meet him at midnight by the railroad tracks in the forest, because he's holding that vacuum cleaner for ransom. And if they want the vacuum cleaner back, they are going to have to dish out several hundreds of dollars that way overpass the original price of the vacuum cleaner to get it back. Just think about that for a moment, guys. Just think about that. I mean, we're talking, this is the stuff of legends. Seriously. Rodney is a legend. Never going to forget him. So, of course, Rodney, whose bread and butter, literally speaking, is dropping acid and probably listening to Funkadelic. By the way, listen to Maggot Brain, one of my favorite songs by Funkadelic. Awesome song. Made his way to the railroad tracks at midnight with the vacuum cleaner, thinking the cops were actually going to go through with this. That they were actually going to say, hey, Rodney, what's up, man? Here's your money. Can we have the vacuum cleaner back? Obviously, that didn't happen. And our good friend Rodney was arrested. Rest in peace, Rodney, because I will never forget you. Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, that once upon a time, there was a guy that held a vacuum cleaner for ransom. You're welcome. So those are two crazy stories of mine. I hope you had fun listening to these stories. I hope you found them pretty original and quirky. And I'm going to keep on sharing these types of stories, and they're going to keep on mounting or escalating. We're going to get to the meat of it is going to come a little bit later. So I'm slowly going to glide you into my world, into my past, and I thought these were pretty appropriate for some fun story times. Please don't forget to subscribe, guys. I am just starting this channel. I'm going to be in bed for 2 months with my cast, Malone. And so I'm going to be filming some fun videos, and I really, really hope that you guys will come along for the ride with me. That would make my day. So again, don't forget to subscribe, press the like button. Feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to read your comments. And I will see you next week for more crazy story times from my past, all the way up to why I am in bed with a cast on for 2 months. I hope you all have a great weekend. For all you French speakers out there, s'il vous plaît, si vous ne parlez pas français, je suis absolument navrée, mais ma première langue est l'anglais, donc je suis désolée. So I will see you next week, like I said, and cheers to you, cheers to me, cheers to Malone, and again, Boris, I'm still here, not going anywhere. So there you have it, folks.